It is Tuesday, February 3rd, 2026. And I want you to just take a second with that date. Let it settle in for a moment. We are firmly in the mid-20s now, and if you've been feeling like the ground under your feet in the tech world is shifting a little faster than usual,
Oh.
you are definitely not imagining it.
Oh, you're not. It's definitely not your imagination. The velocity we're seeing right now, it's breathtaking. Honestly, it feels less like evolution at this point and, more like a series of rapid-fire mutations. Everything's just happening at once.
That is a great way to put it, rapid-fire mutations. And to help us get our bearings today, we're not just looking at one big headline. We've pulled a stack of reports, specifically from TechWorld Bangladesh. Now, usually we might zoom in on one story and maybe dissect one product launch. But today we have 4 distinct updates. And the reason we're covering them together is that when you stack them up like layers of a cake, they tell a much bigger, cohesive story about the life cycle of technology.
Right. If you look at these individually, they're just news snippets. A download stat here, a spectrum allocation there. It's just noise. But together, they're painting this vivid picture of a massive changing of the guard. We are witnessing the birth of a new dominance, the quiet death of a legend, and the frantic scramble to build the world that supports this new reality.
So the mission for this deep dive is to connect those dots. We're going to look at the new king of apps, say goodbye to a piece of software that defined the early internet for so many of us. Then look at the invisible infrastructure making it all work, and finally discuss how education is trying to stop us all from becoming obsolete.
It's a full life cycle episode, birth to death to rebirth.
Let's start with the birth, or maybe coronation is the better word here. We've been talking about the rise of AI for a few years now, obviously. It's been the buzzword of the decade. But there's a specific milestone in these reports that suggests we've crossed a Rubicon. According to the data, OpenAI's ChatGPT officially become the most downloaded app worldwide.
This is a massive moment, and we need to be careful not to just gloss over it as another win for AI or just another stat. You have to look at what it beat to get there. The report explicitly notes that it has overtaken once popular social media apps.
That's the detail that stopped me in my tracks. For the last 15 years, maybe more, if you looked at the top charts, what did you see? TikTok, Instagram, Facebook, Snapchat. It was always social. It was always about connection or, let's be honest, distraction.
Exactly. The attention economy. That was the reigning monarch.
Right. But now, as of today, in 2026, the #1 spot isn't a game. It isn't a social network. It's a utility. It's a tool. Does this signal a fundamental shift in why we pick up our phones?
I think it does. It marks a pivot from passive consumption to active interaction. Think about the user loop for social media. You open the app and you wait to be entertained. You surrender control. You scroll, you watch, maybe you double tap. It's a lean back experience.
It's essentially digital television in your pocket. You're the audience.
Precisely. But with ChatGPT taking the #1 spot, that dynamic flips. You don't open ChatGPT to see what it shows you. You open it because you have an intent. You need to draft an email, debug some code, learn a concept, plan a trip. It's a lean-forward experience. The phone is becoming less of a consumption screen and more of a co-pilot.
That is a fascinating distinction, the co-pilot era. But let me play devil's advocate for a second here. Is it really that noble? Or are people just using it to do their homework and write lazy emails? Is it utility or is it just outsourcing effort?
That's the big question, isn't it? It's likely a mix of both. But even if it is outsourcing efforts, say, asking AI to write a difficult email to your boss, that's still a fundamentally different interaction than doom scrolling through short-form videos for an hour. It's goal-oriented. The market, and I mean millions of users globally, is voting with their downloads. They're saying, I value a tool that helps me do something more than a tool that helps me watch something.
It's a move from distract me to assist me. And if that trend holds, it spells trouble for the ad-supported models that rely on you staring at a feed for 3 hours a day.
Huge trouble. If your business model is capturing eyeballs and the users are moving to apps where they get an answer and leave, that's a disruption of the highest order. It changes how money moves on the internet.
So we have the rise of the new king, but, Newton's laws apply to tech too, right? For every rise, there's a fall. And this next story, I have to admit, this one hit me right in the nostalgia center. It actually made me a little sad.
I had a feeling this one would resonate with you.
The reports indicate that Adobe Animate is shutting down. And we aren't talking about a slow phase out over 5 years. It is shutting down next month, March 2026.
It's the abrupt end of an era. No fanfare, just a sunset.
And the report mentions this software has been used for nearly 3 decades. 3 decades. In tech years, that's the Jurassic period. For the listeners who might not know the lineage, this is the tool that used to be Macromedia Flash, right?
That is the one. If you were on the internet in the early 2000s, you didn't just browse the web, you experienced Flash. Homestar Runner, Newgrounds, those stick figure fighting games. Even the intrusive banner ads with the monkeys you had to punch, it was all built on this engine.
It defined the aesthetic of the early web. It was the Wild West. Hearing that it's closing feels like hearing they're demolishing a historic building to put up a parking lot. Why now? Is this just Adobe cleaning house, or is there a technical reason it has to go?
It's a bit of both, but mostly it's about the workflow. The report describes it as a popular two-dimensional 2D animation software, which is true, but the way we create 2D content has fundamentally changed.
How so?
Well, think about the Flash era. It was vector-based, frame-by-frame animation intended largely for the web browser. You drew a square, then you moved it slightly, then you moved it again. But then the iPhone came out and killed Flash on mobile. Then HTML5 came along and did it better natively. Today, if you're a motion designer, you're likely using tools like Rive for interactive runtimes, or After Effects for video, or
tying it back to our first story, generative AI video tools.
Exactly.
So Adobe Animate was sort of stuck in the middle.
It was a tool built for a world that doesn't really exist anymore. It's the steam engine. We can respect what the steam engine did for the Industrial Revolution. We can put it in a museum, but we don't put them in Teslas.
That is a harsh but fair analogy. So Adobe Animate retiring is basically the industry saying, this manual frame-by-frame way of doing things is done.
It's the sunset of a standard, and it creates this incredibly stark contrast with our first story. ChatGPT is the new, dawn-automated, generative instant results. Adobe Animate is the dusk manual, painstaking craftsmanship. You can't have the new growth without clearing out the old underbrush.
It is bittersweet. It really makes you realize that nothing digital is permanent. But practically speaking, all these new AI tools, these high-bandwidth apps, they don't run on magic.
No, they certainly do not.
They run on invisible waves. Which brings us to our third update from TechWorld Bangladesh. We're shifting from software to the hard stuff infrastructure. We have news about Grameenphone.
Correct. The leading telecommunications service provider in Bangladesh.
They have just received an allocation letter for the 700 megahertz spectrum. Now, I want to pause here. 700 megahertz spectrum. To the average listener, that sounds like pure technobabble. Why is this a headline? Why should a normal person care about a frequency number?
It's a great question, because usually people only care about Gs, 4G, 5G, 6G, but the frequency that maps to the physics of how your phone works. Think of spectrum like lanes on a highway, but different lanes have different rules of physics.
Okay, walk us through the physics of 700 megahertz. Keep it simple for me.
So 700 megahertz is considered low-band spectrum.
Yeah.
In the world of radio waves, lower frequency means longer waves. Longer waves travel much further, and this is the critical part, they are much better at punching through obstacles. Concrete walls, glass, trees, basements.
So this is the difference between having full bars standing by the window, but 0 bars when you walk into the bathroom or the elevator.
Precisely. Higher frequencies, like the super fast 5G millimeter wave everyone talks about, are incredibly fast, but a stiff breeze or a tree branch can block them. They're fragile. 700 millihertz is the workhorse. It provides that deep indoor coverage and covers vast rural areas with fewer towers.
So for Grameenphone to get this, it's a big deal for reliability.
It is huge. The report notes that this is the first time Grameenphone has received this specific frequency allocation from the Bangladesh Telecommunication Regulatory Commission, the BTRC.
And the report also mentioned they had to meet all necessary regulatory conditions to get it. That phrasing stood out to me. It sounds like there was some red tape involved.
There is always red tape with spectrum. Governments know that spectrum is a finite natural resource. They don't just hand it out. They allocate it with strict conditions to ensure the state gets revenue and the telcos actually deploy it efficiently.
So connecting this back to our first story, we have everyone downloading ChatGPT. We have people moving away from offline tools like Adobe Animate to cloud-based tools. That puts a massive strain on the network, doesn't it?
It puts an unprecedented strain. AI applications are chatty. They require constant pinging back and forth to the cloud. If you're using a co-pilot on your phone for everything, you need a connection that doesn't drop when you walk into an elevator or a basement. If the connection drops, the AI brain shuts off.
So Grameenphone getting this 700 megahertz spectrum is basically them reinforcing the foundation of the house because they know a heavy party is going on upstairs.
That is a perfect analogy. You cannot have a modern digital economy. You can't have this AI revolution running on 2010 era connectivity. This allocation is the invisible backbone being strengthened so that the new King app actually works when you need it.
It's the unsexy but absolutely critical part of the tech ecosystem. We love talking about the apps, but the spectrum is what lets the apps exist.
Without the highway, the Ferrari is just a sculpture.
Okay, so let's reset the board. We have the new app king, ChatGPT. We have the dying legacy, Adobe Animate. We have the strengthened infrastructure from Grameenphone. But there is one piece left in this puzzle, the human element.
The people who have to actually live and work in this new world.
Exactly. Who's going to build the next ChatGPT? Who is going to maintain that 700 megahertz network? Because right now, the skills gap is a very real thing. If Adobe Animate is dead, what do the students learn?
And that brings us to our final report, which is about a partnership between Roztech and UCBD.
Now, for context, Roztech is described in the report as a global AI technology service provider. And they're teaming up with UCBD University of Creative Technology, Chittagong, to work on student career development.
This is a classic example of industry meeting academia, but it feels more urgent now. The goal, according to the report, is to provide students with industrial concepts and experience.
I love that phrasing, industrial concepts. It sounds very distinct from academic theories. What does that actually mean in practice?
It addresses the university lag. Think about how a university curriculum is built. You write a syllabus, get it approved, print the textbooks. That process can take 2 or 3 years.
And in the tech world, 2 or 3 years is a lifetime.
Exactly. If you wrote a textbook on the future of animation 3 years ago, it probably has 5 chapters on Adobe Animate today. That software is dead. So the students graduating now would be experts in a ghost tool.
That is a terrifying thought for a student. You spend 4 years learning, and on graduation day, your skills are obsolete.
That is the crisis Roztech is trying to solve. When a global AI service provider partners with a university, they are trying to bypass that lag. They're saying, throw away the textbook, here's what we're doing in the lab today, here's how the systems actually work right now.
It's about injecting reality into the classroom.
It is. And notice the focus isn't just learn to code, it's career development and industrial concepts. In a world where AI can write the code for you, thanks to ChatGPT, the value of a human worker isn't remembering syntax. It is understanding the system. It's knowing how to deploy the AI, how to manage the infrastructure, how to solve the business problem.
So Roztech isn't just teach them what to think, but how the industry thinks.
Precisely. It is future-proofing the workforce. If you just teach a tool like Adobe Animate, you create a technician. If you teach industrial concepts and adaptability, you create an engineer or a leader.
And it fits so perfectly with the other stories. We have the AI company, Roztech, helping students understand the AI landscape, like ChatGPT, likely relying on the connectivity we just discussed. It's a full-circle ecosystem.
It really is. You cannot look at these stories in isolation. The death of the old software necessitates the new education. The rise of the new AI necessitates the new infrastructure.
So what does this all mean for us? For the listener driving to work or at the gym right now?
Well, if you look at the board, Tuesday, February 3, 2026, the world is clearly sending a signal.
It's telling us to move.
It is. The static world is gone. The era of learn one trade and do it for 40 years is officially over. We saw that with Adobe. If you held onto that tool too tight, you're in trouble today.
And the era of just passively watching content is waning. We're moving into a phase of active co-creation with machines.
And the infrastructure is racing to keep up. But the big takeaway for me is the adaptability factor.
Adaptability.
Yes. The Roztech story proves that the most valuable skill isn't mastery of a specific piece of software, but the ability to learn the next one.
It's a lot to take in, but it's also incredibly exciting. We're living through the transition. It's messy, sure. Old things are breaking, new things are confusing.
But that's where the opportunity is. You just have to be willing to let go of the old tools to make space for the new capabilities.
That brings us to the end of today's deep dive into the archives of February 3, 2026. But before we go, I want to leave you with a thought.
Go for it.
We spent a lot of time talking about tools today. ChatGPT, Adobe Animate, Spectrum bands. But think about the contrast. Adobe Animate dominated for 30 years before its sunset. ChatGPT took the world by storm in just a few. The cycles are getting shorter.
Much shorter.
So, are we moving into a world where the specific tools we learn today will become obsolete not in decades, but in months? And if that's the case, is the only true skill left learning how to learn? Are we entering the age of the generalist?
I think we might be. The master of one tool is vulnerable. The learner of new tools is invincible.
Something to chew on as you go about your day. Thank you for listening. Thank you for being curious. And as always, keep learning. We'll see you in the next deep dive.